Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the award-winning Starborn Support Radio Show with your hosts, Michael Austin Melton, Laura Weiser, Chris Augustin, and Julia Weiss, right here at home with the KGRA Alternative Talk Radio Station.
And good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good Saturday this week. It's almost over, but now you're here with us tonight to listen to some good radio. This is Mike Melton, your host, and I'm here with Julia Weiss and Laura Weiser, my two co-hosts tonight. We have a wonderful show tonight for you. A gentleman who has just been through so much, and he's here to share all that with us, and we're going to talk to him in a minute. But, first... before we start tonight, I would like to talk to you a moment about a very important issue and a growing problem in our area of research, the area of ufology and abduction studies in general. Now, recently, a few of my colleagues expressed concern because they were being attacked very covertly, spreading rumors, denigrating people who are at the top of the field and blaming other people at the top of the field for doing such harmful and treacherous things to their colleagues, tampering with their computers from remote sites, and this is just a few things that have been going on. Well, first, I want to address those in the field who are at the top of the game and those who are just stepping in. The leaders, the trendsetters, the researchers, and anyone who works at that level. Be on the lookout for this kind of unsettling behavior. If you receive an email from a colleague or someone tells you that so-and-so said something bad about you at this or that conference or speaking engagement, just don't fall for it. You know your colleagues. You know the people that surround you, and you know all of them are of the highest integrity. And even though that is likely the case, someone close to home might just be starting trouble. My advice is to keep in close contact with your colleagues, meet over Skype, discuss the issues, and be on the same page. If a dispute should arise, keep it confidential and go directly to the person you have accused as the perpetrator and talk to them. Ask them questions. Use your knowledge of their character to assure yourself that this or that colleague and friend did not commit the offense. Ask yourself, what is going on? Who wants to see me publicly embarrassed? Who wants to stain my character? I know that what I'm saying is simple common knowledge, but under duress, we react sometimes with shotgun accuracy. Remember one very important fact. As you get closer to the truth, as you come within the vicinity of finding an answer, there are factions that exist that do not under any condition want to see you find that truth or that answer. Their dastardly survival depends on causing friction and division within the ranks of those who hold the truths and the answers. These minions of the powers that be, regardless of their terrestrial or extraterrestrial origin, will stop at nothing, because they are the ones falling behind, losing ground, and slipping into obscurity. Now to the perpetrators. If you think for 1 minute that you're going to cause us to flounder, backslide, and give up this fight, well, you have been deceived and hornswoggled by your foolhardy and fatuous leaders, your employers, and your whiz-bang covert handlers. Causing splits and derision in our ranks will not hurt us or cause us to lose any sleep whatsoever. The truth is at hand. In the near future, there will be great efforts made to attempt to convince our leaders to take ufology seriously. We're recruiting doctors, mental health specialists, lawyers to assist in our work, scientists, and other experts as well. We are making great strides in learning about abduction, the phylogeny, and the different species of our apparent extraterrestrial visitors. And we know more than you think, and we are more unified than you can imagine. We have it together. We invite you to do your worst and experience the resiliency of a group of people dedicated to the cause and willing to lay it on the line to bring forth the truth. And God willing, we will do exactly that. Okay, thanks for lending me your ear on that. I hope it's burning with anticipation, and if you're on the dark side, I hope it's burning with fear. Now let's get on with the show. Tonight, we have with us Mr. Tony Topping, UFO encounters, mind control, covert operations, and espionage, a tremendously complex set of life experiences you need to hear to believe. He had endured these experiences all the way up through high school, after which he took a job as a clerk. His real passion, however, was to become an actor. He took up amateur dramatics and was encouraged by his peers to go to professional school. He got into drama school in London at the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts. Fate had other plans, however. Before he really got into his studies, he had his first UFO encounter in 1992. The sighting he had in 1996, however, near Paddington in the UK was the event that changed the course of his life, and the rest I will leave to the man himself to talk about. Welcome, Tony. How are you this evening?
Good evening. Good evening to your listeners. I'm very well, thank you. I hope you're hearing me okay. I was just listening to that rather profound statement you were giving at the start of the show. Which is, it's kind of like that element of it, the harassment of it for me has been very serious indeed, with the lengths they will go to keep what you're talking about quiet, the lengths they will go to. Very interesting.
Thought it would be good if I just took a few minutes to speak out about it. Well, now, on to you, Tony. There's been so much that has happened to you over your life, so many strange experiences and so much involvement in the research of mind control and being victim of the same. We have lots of questions, and so we're going to get on with the show. Now, I understand you've had experiences since you were very small, Tony. Why don't you begin by telling us your early experiences and how they affected you growing up?
Well, my first experiences was probably at the age of 2, although I've reason to believe that they've been tracking me, as in the UFOs that came over the house probably since 1970. But in 1972, I had my first experience where we saw 2 individuals walk through a wall at the age of 2. I recently, a few years back, appeared on an ITV program, and there was a guy there called Dr. Chris French who said that this was all made up. This was all made up. But that's what happened to me. That was my first experience, and I remember screaming at my father. I have a very vivid memory of screaming at my father. I can see it now, and trying, because I couldn't talk. I was only 2. I was difficult talking, so I remember, screaming at him and trying to point out to him that there was 2 people who had walked through the wall. And I remember him putting me in my cot and telling me that nothing had happened. And then all through my life, up until probably the age of 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age, when I had a dabble with the occult and all that kind of thing, I was having strange dreams and strange events that were happening. Nothing really of any magnitude until about 1990-ish, where we had a situation occur where a UFO actually came in over the roof of my house for a few seconds. It was about 5 to 10 seconds in duration, like something out of Close Encounters. It was there, it was gone, and it left me wandering around in a daze for a number of days. I was just wondering what the hell it was, and little would I know that hurtling further down the line, 10, 15, 14 years ahead, all hell would be coming my way. I would go to the gates and have hell and back with all this. In order to, similar to the movie, I think, in The Matrix, where he swallows a red pill and he swallows the blue pill, somebody gave me a red pill, and it's taken me 14 years to suss out why I was targeted. It's taken me 14 years to understand the dynamics of why I was targeted, who these people were, the fact that these people were part of a party and that there were a number of parties involved in what appeared to be a covert operation going on around me to do with UFOs unbeknown to me. But I wasn't meant to twig. I wasn't meant to suss it out. But I was. Somebody was guiding me every step of the way. And, that's it. That's what happened. I think Michael's gone off air. Can anybody else hear me? I wonder. Is everything all right?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, Julia. So that's what happened to me basically in a nutshell. And I was. It was unbelievable. It really was what happened to me, and I kind of then began to be. I went to high school, and nothing much happened at high school. I was severely bullied at high school. When I went to the high school, it was horrendous. I had an horrendous childhood, and my father was potently psychic, potently so. So the psychic phenomena thing ran in my family very much so. My father was potently psychic. there was some strange goings on with him as well. He was approached by the KGB in the 1950s when he served in Vienna in Austria, which I found very odd. And the relationship with my father was not a good one either. But he was personally psychic. He could heal neuralgia. I've seen it. I see him bring a cat back from the dead, heal somebody of a heart attack. He had healing hands. He was very powerful. And in fact, if I was naughty as a child, he didn't need to smack me. He'd just spark me out on the bed with a headache, which a lot of people, when I'm at conferences and I say this, and I don't know what you guys think as presenters, a lot of people find that very cruel that he would do that, but he was capable of doing so. He was capable of knocking me out on the bed with a thumping headache when I was 8 or 9 years old. He could do that quite easily. He didn't need to smack me in any way, you know. Yeah, so the relationship with my father was a deeply troubling and puzzling one, and one of regrets, really, you know, really. And the tragedy that would unfold in the years ahead with my targeting and harassment makes me wonder, and it really does make me wonder whether they were targeting him as well. I have to reach that conclusion that there's a distinct possibility that the same people who were harassing me may have been also doing something to him, but we can't prove it because they work in the area of the unprovable. They work in the area of covertness and shadow. They work in the area of I'm the lunatic. They work and that works very well for them. But, you know, to label some of the opinion police, to label somebody as insane and bonkers, that works really well as good cover for them, as you guys probably well know. Yeah, so, yeah, that's kind of like, in a nutshell, the childhood elements of it. And then, you know, it then funded onto me moving to London. I got a place at stage school. And I managed to, the stage school was very competitive because there was about 20 places and nearly 2,000 applicants for a place at London Stage School that I went to. I had my heart set on being an actor. My father at the time just thought it was one big joke, which I've never quite forgiven him for. He just feigned disinterest at me. You know, nothing really much happened on the UFO front. Nothing really much, as you can see, is going on, really. There's no interactions happening at the moment with the UFOs at that point when I went to drama school in 91. But it was probably in about 93 in Parade Street, Paddington, where I saw my first UFO. And it looked as if it was going to crash into a tower block. It was a dot of light. No. Little would I know that in the years ahead I would see them. I would see these dots of light, what they really were. In fact, this year, when I awoke, I call it my awakening this year, 2014. It's an awakening for me, where I awake to what was actually going on around me. But I've seen these dots of light in real time in the daylight. What they look like is quite odd, but that's another story, which I'll come to later. But basically, in Parade Street, Paddington, in the 90s was my first UFO incident, and I was next to a fire engine. And I remember I was about to run over to this London Fire Brigade fire engine and say, "Look at that! It's about to crash into a block of flats." But before I could do that, it completely vanished. And, you know, I'm thinking, oh, and then I started having these odd dreams in London, and then I started being followed by these dots of light everywhere. It was just so bizarre. In fact, the situation, if we were to humour it, is similar to have you heard of the wacky races? Guys, the cartoon. Yeah, this is a covert version of the wacky races. If we were to put a very dark humour to it, it really is. So what we've got is the scenario of me living in London and having these strange goings on that I cannot understand, and you know, having the strange dreams and the strange goings on. I just cannot understand any of it at all. And then it then starts to escalate, where I returned to London I fell on hard times really in London, and I remember moving back to Yorkshire. I had to move back to Yorkshire, and it was in 1999 where it really started. And it's from that point, from 1999 to 2014, this in the past months now, I think probably things started to awaken in April, where, and this may sound so surreal with you guys, or it might not, I don't know, where one of these groups that is extraterrestrial, and I won't even call them alien, I'll call them people like us. That's the biggest secret about it. They're people like us. Stepped in and played their hand in this very big card game and said, yes, here we are. And what is odd, what is absolutely darkly comical about all this is that all this is being played out behind the scenes, and the public are oblivious to it. And it's my experiences are kind of like the real world, real-time world of UFOs and what goes on, and the fact that governments are aware of them, and some governments, even the US government, is possibly speaking to them. Just going back, though, however, to 1999, a UFO in particular, a UFO came in over my house. I dreamt about it 2 weeks before. I'm repeatedly dreaming now, just recently, I'm dreaming about one I'm going to film again, which is a big triangular thing. But recently, that was recent, but in 1999, this UFO came in over my house, illuminated a TV antenna, literally illuminated it twice, and then flew off. And this was all part of a great big game that I have got embroiled with, that I didn't quite know what it's all about, and so it began.
When you said it illuminated your antenna, what do you mean? It lit it up, or?
Yeah, it did. Sorry, it illuminated. It's a well-known clip, actually. I'm a contributor to UK media here in the UK, so it's a well-known clip of a UFO illuminating a TV antenna. And what it does is it kind of like rotates around the estate. It rotates around a block of houses, and it literally singles out a television antenna and illuminates it, as it makes it glow white twice. So the antenna glows white. We tried to simulate that with torches. We tried to simulate it with car headlights. We couldn't get the same effect. It was quite apparent that this UFO was illuminating the TV antenna, and the footage went for image analysis with a special effects director who declared that it was indeed a UFO.
Wow.
What is also extremely disturbing about that is the fact that a covert group of individuals was aware before I was that these things were watching me. They were aware, and so began up until, well, no, it's really up until the present day, 14 years of hell, I would describe it. And 5 years of hell at the hands of various intelligence agencies, including a British covert group who stalked me, used mind control on me. Quite typical for them. I was doing 72 hours a week shift work. It was quite typical for them to wake me up on a morning, on the hour, 5:45, with an alarm clock ringing in my head. But to all intents and purposes, with the mainstream opinion police, I'm the loon. I'm the guy who's got the tinfoil hat on the head, but I've not the technologies there to do it. They had the delivery system to do it, and I know that at 5:45 every morning on the hour they were waking me up for work with alarm clocks ringing in my head, gunfire going off 3 at 4 in the morning, prevention of sleep. And so with targeted individuals like myself, exhaustion stalks me, life expectancy is probably dramatically shortened now, and this is the real world of those of us who dare to be in contact with those off-world, those people that are off-world. And my government, or elements of my government, know that this has been going on. They know that the technology was deployed on me. It was deployed for a number of years on me and made my life a living hell. And to cut a long story short, I was stalked at the recent TV program that's going to be broadcast in the UK on Channel 4. I take the broadcaster, the television crew, through the steps of me being covertly stalked. Well, I was they were overtly stalking me as well as covertly stalking me. And that is down to a group of individuals who are aware and still are aware of my experiences. And what is even disturbing about that is the fact that they are aware of my experiences. So here's me, it's taken me 14 years to work it out, but they probably already know. And that's a very sinister they're a very sinister group of individuals. I found that they were stalking me. They were leaving answering machine messages. A popular thing they used to do is when I walked out of the local supermarket, there'd be an answering machine message saying that I'd walked out of the local supermarket, as if they were sat in a car making comments on that. And this dragged on and on. Little would I know, it's similar to the wacky races, but little would I know that something rather spectacular would happen in April 2014 that has no doubt in my mind that there is something going on with these things that are off-world coming in. And it's like a giant game. And as I say, I was involved in a covert operation. I kept journals from about 2001 till about 2009, which are going to be published in a book, and I kept them on my shelf for nearly 5 years. With all this, I just kept it on my shelf for nearly 5 years and didn't do anything with them because I couldn't understand what was happening. And it's only recently this year that I've read through them to actually discover that, yes, every entry that I've made, it involves me being involved in somebody else's game, and these UFOs, these people, are actually speaking to a third party of individuals who remain mysterious and are using me as some kind of interface network, which is very clever. And not only are they doing that, but they're also speaking to me as well. And not only that, but these journals seem to predict events that are happening now to me back in 2003. There's entries in 2003 that are coming now into formation, because the elephant in the room with the UFO stuff is time travel related, and that's an elephant in the room with anything that's written about UFOs. So this seems to be what's happening. So we've got me having these strange goings on, being stalked. I mean, one of the things they do, Michael, is this hard for you to comprehend, and just brace yourself for this, is that they'd wake me up with gunfire and defecation effects as if I'd urinated the bed.
Oh, man.
They tortured me. They tortured me for 5 years. They tortured me, these individuals, for 5 years with some very advanced covert technology, and they wanted me to shut up in no uncertain terms about, hence me saying at the beginning, Michael, what you were reading out, this is the extreme level of what they term the silence. They are the police of the silence. Little knowing these individuals, this I find darkly comical. They have no idea, it appears, what they were dealing with me. They're doing all this torture and they're giving the appearance of being the mighty enforcers of silence, but they obviously have no idea what they themselves have got themselves into, because the people in these UFOs, their technologies is up to 3 centuries ahead of us, 3 centuries ahead of the human race. One group in particular. So I'll go into this. So, that's an estimate, So that is really, in a nutshell, I suppose, a very condensed version of what's happened to me, which really, I hope, wasn't too waffly or wasn't too shallow in the way I explain it. But that's basically it. And the nefarious continues to stalk me. It's been hellish. This past couple of weeks has been hellish with it all. It's not very pleasant. It really, really is not very pleasant. And for some reason, it is to do with events concerning the human race and the direction we are going down. As a race of individuals, it definitely is to do with all that with them. Certainly is.
We're going to take a short break right now, and when we return, I want to continue talking about this, but I also want you, Tony, to go back to the earlier part of the 2000s and kind of build us up to what's going on, because I know that what's going on now is probably the pièce de résistance for them. So let's see if we can build that up for our people out there.
Thousands of wounded warriors returning from battle. Wounded Warrior Project has developed the Warriors to Work program, a career counseling service that helps wounded warriors translate their military experience to a civilian job. These extraordinary men and women bring more than just teamwork and inspiration to the workplace. They bring proven world-class job skills. And to ensure proper placement, Wounded Warrior Project works with employers to find just the right job fit. Talented, skilled, and eager to get back to work, you have the opportunity to hire a seasoned veteran. Contact Wounded Warrior Project at findwwp.org. Welcome home, the brave.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. Every Monday night, I bring you 2 hours of all things related to UFOs, politics, ways to preserve our freedom, and how to live the best life we can live. Sometimes it's just myself, Sometimes I have a guest, but either way, it's a wild ride every week. Don't miss The Richard Dolan Show, Monday nights, 9 to 11 Eastern on KGRA Radio.
You read about UFOs, strange creatures, and ghosts. You watch videos about them. Do you know how to investigate them? Chase Kletsky does. For 20 years, she's been Indiana Jones and Laura Croft rolled into one. The real hunter of Bigfoot, ghosts, and UFOs. She goes everywhere, from remote woods to ghost-infested buildings to the highlands of South America, hunting down strange things in our world. Now she's written a book to show you how it's done. Co-authored with UFO researcher Richard Dolan, Chase lays it out. How to prepare, what to bring, interviewing witnesses, doing a stakeout, handling evidence, and documenting it the right way. Get Admissible, the field manual for investigating UFOs, paranormal activity, and strange creatures. Learn more at richarddolanpress.com.
Also available on Kindle.
Do you find yourself sometimes on the go and wishing you could be home listening to KGRA radio? Well, now you can, utilizing KGRA's call to listen number. Simply dial 716-748-0125. That's 716-748-0125. And connect to the best in talk radio, KGRA Radio.
Hey, this is Lauren Kurtz.
This is Lauren Cott.
And we are here to say High Strangeness is back. And to celebrate, we bring you a High Strangeness special, a 3-hour exclusive interview with Lynn Buchanan of the CIA's Project Stargate remote viewing program. We cover a lot of strange ground.
His work as a man in black.
His own UFO abduction experience.
9/11.
Chemtrails.
Indigo children.
The Nephilim. And of course,
consciousness research and remote viewing.
This special will air on Saturday, October the 4th, 2014 at 7 p.m. Eastern. And the new slot for High Strangeness is on Saturday nights, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on KGRAradio.com. Check us out at highstrangenessshow.com.
When you're listening to nothing but the best of paranormal talk radio on the internet, you're listening to KGRAradio.com. Digital broadcasting.
And gang, we're back again with Tony Topping. And Tony, this is also fascinating. I want you to kind of like set the stage for us. Let us know what it's like to be covertly abused and used and mentally tortured.
Well, yes, it is. At the end of the day, Michael, there are elements, I think, out there that know that this has happened to me. I definitely have an idea that is correct, and I definitely have an idea that they're keeping quiet about it, but they know. They do know that this has happened to me. And what they would sometimes do is, there was various techniques, and one of them was overtly following me, covertly following me, and also overtly following me with something called directed conversation technique, whereby they would, what was happening was I was being awoken, for example, on the hour, etc., etc. The other thing that happened as well is filming of me with a covert helicopter, walking back from my local town, and all of a sudden, out of the blue from nowhere, is this great big green unmarked helicopter with various dome configurations on it, and it came up parallel to my side, and it was like something out of a Jason Bourne film or a James Bond movie, because it swung across a road junction, and unexpectedly the guys in there who were obviously filming me didn't realise that I was going to film them as well. So I'm filming them, they're filming me, and it's hovering across a road junction which breaks every air regulation in the book. There's cars peeping their horns, fishermen on the canal bank stood with their hands on their hips. It's near the local now, wondering what the hell was going on, and this thing is hovering side onto me across a road junction. It's green, it's unmarked, it's got domes underneath it, it's got a winch configuration. A helicopter pilot took a look at it and said he'd never seen anything like it. Because of the configuration of it, it was a sliding door variant of what's known as an AS-555 or AS-550. Now, that helicopter is not used by British Special Forces, but is used extensively by the US and other countries. Canada, the US, you see. And so there it was, you know, and what the gentleman in question was doing was he was taking signal measurements with me. He was taking measurements. He was definitely, it's taken me 14 years to suss out, but that helicopter wasn't surveying pipelines. It wasn't doing anything of the sort. He was doing MASNIT, as known as measurement intelligence, measurement and signals intelligence on me. He was analysing, he was sampling, he was taking readings. That's what they were doing. That's what he was doing. So a human element of my UFO encounters was well on the way to knowing what was going on. And we sent this email to, I sent this email to Jane's Defence Weekly, which is a very big publication. I don't know whether you've heard about it, Jane's Defence Weekly, yeah. And they came back and said, yeah, it's an AS-550 is this. It's a most unusual helicopter. And it even had a winch on it. It's a most unusual looking thing. And this was kind of like in conjunction with being followed into pubs. And what was happening, as I say, is they were waking me up on the hour, every hour, to go to the toilet. Was another thing as well. Now, the opinion police might spring in here and say, oh my God, well, that's just lunacy. That doesn't happen. He must be schizophrenic. Well, no, because it was timed. It was 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. where they were hammering with this technology, and they're waking me up to go to the toilet. Now, interestingly enough, this gentleman in question, and there's a great big stonking photo of him on my internet site because he looks like an actor. There's an actor who played the part in a film called Smoking Aces, the movie Smoking Aces, and he looks like one of the characters in that film, Smoking Aces. What is concerning?
Yeah, I have that picture.
Yeah, you have that picture. Yeah,
I do.
You do, yeah. Well, that's him to a T. He's a lookalike. Now, so but you see, what will happen with an individual like that is they don't do ethics. They do, oh dear, he's been compromised. That's what they do. So they don't do ethics. They don't do, they're tortured. They don't do anything like that. All they'll see is, oh my God, he's been compromised. He's made himself look daft. This guy in particular. But what happened is this guy in particular wandered into a pub in Selby, and he had a lady with him. I remember it quite distinctly, and he leaned over the counter. He ordered a glass of Coke. He had vehicle keys in his hand. He had these strange dress, though, oddly dressed. I don't know why, he just looked odd in some way. He stood out, and it was definitely him. And when I walked past him, he clearly looked at this woman and said, I see he's off to the toilet again. I see he is off to the toilet again. Because they'd been waking me on the hour every hour. So, to go to the toilet, in one of the many things that they've done. So he says, I see he's off to the toilet again. These are atrocities. These are real nasty goings on. The lady didn't say anything in particular, but when it was realised, I really should have. I should have confronted him actually in the pub. I should have confronted him at the time, and I should have called the police on him immediately, because even though they're mega powerful individuals with security clearance and they're above the law, as soon as he stepped into that pub and handed money over for a glass of Coke that he ordered, he is on the law of the land. He has stepped onto the land. He is on the law of the land. It applies, doesn't it? Do you see what I'm saying? It does apply. He has the law of the land. Now, this man would have specifically had security clearance and so on. The woman he was with leaned. This was so odd, but the woman he was with looked in a mirror and leaned backwards, I remember it quite well, and said, why isn't Anthony communicating with us? And he said, I don't know, and come on, let's go, and promptly left the premises.
And you're hearing this stuff in your
head. It's all going on, and I'm pretending to be just oblivious. I'm pretending just to be the country idiot bumpkin. I'm fully aware he's there, and I'm not sure how to deal with the situation. And then it's just so distinctly it's frightening that these individuals are at large. And then there was a secondary incident that happened in another situation where two of them had wandered in. And they'd been observing me for quite a while, it would appear. And then when I got up to leave, and I was just waiting outside, taking in the air, actually, they followed me outside the pub. And one of them just looked at me and just said, see you later, Anthony. See you later, Anthony, in a foreign accent. This is in the public domain, in a very foreign accent, which was disturbing. And then they appeared to walk in pace with me down the street. So they were observing me as well. As to why they were observing me is a very tricky question, but it all began when, I probably came on radar when I rang NATO headquarters in the early days of my research in 96, roughly. I rang them up regarding a document that I wanted to have a look at, and I wondered if the document existed. And then a few days later, we started getting the man on a telegraph pole at the end of the street, and odd things started to happen. So I'm on somebody's radar. I was on somebody's radar because of these interaction with the UFOs that were coming in. And as I say, little would I know that during the years down the line, the interactions would start. And there was an attempt, these journals I can clearly see that there was a covert attempt by these individuals to block any interaction that I was having with them. That's what it was all about. It was about blocking any interaction I was having with them. It seems that what would happen is that, according to my journals, when I look at them, it seems that what would happen is I'd have an interaction with these UFOs, and then a day after they would actually hit me with mind control. It was never during interaction, it was never before, it was always after. And that's from the journals, that whoever these people were who had me on radar, they were always a day late. They were always a day late in knowing that they were there, in knowing that they'd been these UFOs. They were always a day late. They could detect them, but they were always 12 to 72 hours late.
Well, that alone must have been terrifying for you.
It's just happened. I don't know. I'm lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
So you get in the UFO research community, Michael, you get this situation where, well, it's not in my backyard. There's one guy in particular, I won't mention his name, he's a prominent guy in one of the UFO groups in the US, very prominent indeed, who more or less said, well, I've done this for years and none of this has happened to me. None of this goes on. And we get this attitude from UFO researchers of, well, it's not happened to me. None of it goes on. You're a lunatic. In fact, another guy who I was surprised at, actually, and is the guy, I won't name him, but basically he's involved in all this. Big researcher who more or less just indicated, well, you're a lunatic. And they don't want to know, Michael. They don't want to know that this actually goes on. Yet, by a strange twist of irony, at the start of the show, you read out a statement, and I'm now showing you the extreme elements of it, of what happens. And of course, we are not alone. And it was all about enforcing the silence, enforcing it, keeping it quiet that we're not alone, keeping it quiet that these UFOs exist. And the journals weave an intricate pattern of prediction, including the financial crash of 2010, the fact that in the middle of all this, while they're trying to block me and interfere with me, these UFOs, whoever they are, these groups in these UFOs, whoever they are communicating with somebody. They're literally communicating with a third party who remains mysterious. Somebody, and the reason why I say that, Michael, is because in my journals I've drawn symbols and atomic symbols and odd propeller designs and stuff like that, and I'm thinking, oh, I must be the ambassadors of the aliens. They're giving this information to. They're not. No. They're not, Michael. Are they? You know the game. They're not. Right. They're giving it to somebody else. They're passing it through me to somebody else who is monitoring, who is watching everything, and it's quite a shocker. It was quite a shocker to discover who that party was. So there we go.
Now, when you see these people in public, when they were trailing you, did they in any way resemble what we call the Men in Black, or were they different, or?
Well, it's odd you should say that, because with the Men in Black situation, because I've had the most bizarre. For example, I know in London, when I got off at King's Cross Station a few years ago, I had a woman walk past me and just say she's walking past me. Yes, she's currently on a mobile phone. He's currently talking on a mobile phone at the moment. She walked straight past me, Michael. And what is interesting with that is you have this situation whereby the mind doesn't register what's just said. The mind doesn't register what she's just said. She's walked past and just said, intentionally, he's currently talking on a mobile phone at the moment. Now, the mind doesn't. I didn't get the mind just somehow blanks that off. Doesn't register. Surely she can't mean me, and she did, but it doesn't. It kind of like it doesn't register at first, and that's the thing with it. It's this lack of the mind part of our mind seems to not accept that that's what happened. You know?
Or you don't want it to register. You kind of try to avoid that.
Yeah, that's right. And you're trying to avoid it. But yes, it did happen. And as for the Men in Black, yes, a very interesting incident happened last year, I think it was actually, on bonfire night, where I'm stood. It's absolutely pouring with rain. And even I, as I'm telling you this, find it all a bit so comically surreal, but it happened. I stood there, pouring with rain, turns around, and there's a guy stood there with a long black coat on and a hat on his head. And he's absolutely beaming at me like a Cheshire cat. And he's in the Men in Black gear, and he's literally beaming at me like a Cheshire cat. And I nearly said to him, "You're not from round here, are you?" But I thought, no, keep walking, don't get involved, don't. And oh God, you just wouldn't believe, Michael, some of the stuff that has gone on. But it's happened. You see, it's happened because it's a gigantic game that's being played. Unreal.
And why do you call it a game? What do you think? What do you think their outcome is, or what outcome are they looking for?
The outcome. It's not the outcome they're looking for. It's the outcome somebody else has got. It would appear somebody somewhere that is a third party has got the outcome. It would appear. For example, one of the most interesting points about this is I would suggest, and this sounds equally incredible, but they do exist, and they're a rum lot. But the tall Nordic blonde alien type people that we talk about, they are real. They do exist, and it's sometimes the interaction is quite flabbergasting, and it is. I would suggest that probably our understanding of their technology, it'll take us nearly a further century to gain an even basic understanding of the way they work in terms of technology when you're talking about this. But they certainly do exist, and they certainly are present. They really, really are present, and that that was the penultimate thing, I think, in April 2014, and it was in May when I was getting hellish harassment. It's very hard to describe, but it's like as if your mind is part of some sort of operation, your mind is elsewhere, your mind is in another reality, and it's having an inception type effect. There is interactions happening all the time within this framework. And the thing is with it is that it won't be, there'll be other human beings who will be, or Earth humans as these people call us, there'll be other human beings having the same situation occurring, and it'll be beyond their comprehension what's happening to them. Hence, for example, in the UK, there was a lady on Channel 4, they did this horrendous program called Confessions of an Alien Abductee, it was called. And what it was there, Michael, they had this situation going on where they portrayed these people who claim to have contact with aliens as absolute raving lunatics. And Channel 4 did a super job of stitching them up good and proper, and there was one woman on there who was traumatized by it. She was a guest on my radio show, and they stitched her up because she more or less said that aliens like Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's what she said on camera. But when you go into it a bit deeper and you interview her, you discover that they'd edited it and manipulated the footage in such a way so that it appeared as if that's what she'd said. And she also indicated that UFOs had been coming over her house, etc., etc. But she had no connection. She thought that they were speaking to her. She thought that it was her that was involved. It isn't anything to... When you take out you out of the equation and realise that it's nothing to do with you and something else is going on, the whole dynamics change. And that's what happens with people. They get so confused. That lady, for example, would be part of something that was beyond her comprehension. If she steps back from herself and realises that the dynamics change, but she was portrayed as being someone who was an absolute loon, when in fact, as the guy responsible for the US remote viewing program, Ingo Swann, indicated quite clearly that walk-ins are occurring. She's a portal of observation for somebody else.
Wow,
she's a portal, a window of observation for something else. And when you get that into the equation, you can handle the situation a lot easier.
Absolutely. By the way, I just wanted to let all you people out there know that you're listening to Starborn Support Radio and KGRA Radio. Tony, I wanted to ask you a little bit before we go into the next break, which is coming up in about, 9-10 minutes. Do you have any memory of, or have you ever been abducted? Do you have any memory of that? Okay.
Yeah. The thing, the situation, it's happened numerous times, even in my journals, but unbeknown to me, I've written about this in my journals. You see, what's been happening is I've been having interaction with them, while at the same time you have this covert interest that's blocking interaction with them, or trying to, but is always a day late, or is always out of sync with what's going on. Now I've basically been left alone, but there's an entry in my journal that indicates that I was floating. At the time I weighed 18 stone and was overweight. I've trimmed down a lot since then. But the time, there's an entry in my journal that said I was floating as if an eagle had taken me in a dream, and an eagle had taken me over the roofs of the house, and it had gone here and gone there and gone everywhere, and I'd gone over the valleys and the hills, and come back again into the room. Another incident has occurred where I thought that I'd actually passed over. I thought I'd actually passed over into the other world, as it were, when in fact I hadn't. I was aboard a UFO, and you could hear the keyboard. You could hear some sort of keyboard, and you could hear some sort of conversation that was not human going on, and you could hear all that. But what really is of great interest is not so much being abducted, but the normalization process of liaison with them, especially with the blonde type, where you're engaged in this normalization process where you notice that I keep calling them people and not aliens, because that's what they aren't. Aliens, they're not. The media portray them as being aliens, and the fact of the matter is they look like you. They look like me with odd variants, and the normalization process of that is absolutely fascinating as to how what I'm describing to you as intense and freaky, not that you probably perceive it, is in fact being normalized by them. So I've got a scenario at the moment where one of the Nordic group of ETs, for example, is a woman with spiky hair. I can't get over how her hair is actually so spiked, and her eyes and complexion of her skin, etc., etc.
Tony?
Yep.
I just want to break in for a second. We have a question from the chat room, and I want to let Laura address that.
Actually, Tony just happened to be discussing the topic as the question came up. It was one of our listeners wanted to know what your interactions were with the Nordics.
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
You've got to on that subject at this point.
Yeah, we are. The Nordic group are Andromedan. They indicate to me that they are Andromeda. It's all drip, drip, drip. So there's no spectacular information to tell you. As soon as you go down the route of I am the ambassador and I am here to spread the will of it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that in real life. I find that Colonel Corso, when he indicated that the US Army viewed all this as foreign technology acquisition, which it is. They're a foreign people with a foreign government, with a foreign military. They have a military. They're like us in many ways, but they're not. And it takes a lot to comprehend. What it basically is, it's the normalization process of liaison with them, and the fact that I would not be able to, from what they told me, I would, and this I find hard to comprehend, but this has all happened, but basically I would not be able, so it says in my journals, I've been reviewing it all, I would not be able to understand their science, but I would be able to discuss their spiritual beliefs. So they know that I would not be able to understand their science. They know this, but I would be able to understand their spiritual beliefs. So they know this.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. You know,
it
kind of lets us know that, hey, you know, a lot of us are on the right track in terms of being able to connect spiritually. But the technology, right? The technology just tosses us out the window.
Correct. The technology, and this is a lucky byproduct because they're actually speaking to somebody else who does understand their technology.
Mm-hmm.
That's all quiet and hush, and that's all fair enough. But they when they speak to me, I mean, I'll never forget what she looked like. This lady in particular, I'll never forget what she looked like, and as clear as day. I mean, it's just as clear as day. And the fact of the matter is that you could feel instinctively the signature when you see her, the signature of the fact that she's communicating over a vast distance in another galaxy. The technology is radically different from ours, but it's the feel of it and the fact that you know, I'm looking at a photo of the lovely Julia here. I can see, if you can imagine that communicated with you, a moving video image of from another galaxy of somebody that just doesn't quite look human but is. Is quite incredible, really, and the fact that the normalization process continues so that you're just liaising with them. And what happened was, Michael, as I say, I was due to film with Channel 4, and Ukraine was heating up. The Ukrainian situation was heating up, and I went to film with Channel 4 outside a prestigious institute that is, I won't name that on the air, but it was a prestigious institution that we've gone and filmed outside. And on that morning, there is no mistaking the fact that these flying Norsemen, I would call them, appeared. They literally appeared, and I think I've sent you an email with the JPEG of the journal entry, because what they did is they gave me this absolute, just incredible vision of a clock that was stuck at midnight. What was it, 23:45? It was stuck at. It was a clock, and it was stuck at 23:45. And they were speaking to somebody. It was as if I couldn't hear what was going on, but I could literally see them. They had the clock in front of them. They were showing something to somebody about what was happening, almost as if to say, "Cool it down." Cool all this situation down in world affairs, because you're going down an avenue where we're going to have nuclear shelters being built in America and Britain.
Wow.
Cool it off. And also the thing as well, what they said was, this was a timely reminder for certain individuals to leave me alone as well. I'm somebody else's asset. I'm obviously somebody his prize asset of some description, and they were communicating on that day before we went to this organisation that has a say in world affairs. This organisation has, I've reason to believe, actually even harassed UFO researchers as well. But you wouldn't see it in the public domain. They're not in the public domain for doing that. Nobody. They're one of these organisations that's a bit like the Council for Foreign Relations, the CFR. They're one of those sort of organisations. I'm not saying anything because I don't want to, there's legal. I'll just keep it as who they are. But it's very interesting indeed that on that very morning that I was due to go to London to film, they appeared, and that was unmistakable. And now, interesting for your listeners is the fact that there's a guy in Russia called Alexei Savin, and he is in charge, or was in charge, of the KGB Psychic Remote Viewing Directorate. I don't know whether you guys have heard of him, have you? No. You guys and girls? Yeah, well, he was responsible for the development of the remote viewing unit called Troop 10,003, and they were the KGB's elite remote viewing unit, psychic unit, and he had indicated quite clearly that he had developed a unit of individuals, of females, that were, it was the women every time that were more accurate than the men at doing all this. And they were analysing contact with UFOs and extraterrestrials via remote viewing. And he came up with some startling conclusions via this data and indicated, and he's speaking to the Russian press about this quite freely. And the Russian press didn't ridicule him, he's very respected, whereas the Western media will just absolutely crucify you. The Russian press were lapping this up. They found it fascinating. And he was indicating that in these interactions that go on, nearly 90% of the time it's always female. And that's quite correct in my interactions that have happened to me, which is something I've never really talked about at depth, really. They're all female. I'm seeing female. It's always a female. But on this occasion, on this particular incident that happened to me, it was 3 males that turned up. It was 3 males, and I know when they're coming in over the house as well when I'm sleeping. I know that they're flown over the house.
We're going to take a short break here, and when we come back, Tony, I'm going to turn you over to Julia and Laura, who I think have some questions for you. You're listening to KGRA, Starborn Support Radio.
story of a spaceman deserted on a faraway world, comforted in his final days only by a music device containing his favorite music to remind him of home.
Take the children and yourself and hide out in the cellar. By now the fighting will be close at hand. Walk on the ocean, step on the stones. Flesh becomes water, wood becomes bone.
Thousands of years later, his remains are discovered by an alien race, and from his belongings discover something called music.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me running? Can you hear me running? Can you hear me calling you?
Sky Club, a self-titled CD with Mac Maloney, contains these songs that gifted an entire civilization with music.
Somebody tell my mother if I die. Somebody tell my mother that
Each CD comes with a lavishly illustrated booklet chronicling the life, death, and rebirth of the space traveler. A must-have for any music lover. Sky Club with Mac Maloney. Available now at Amazon and on iTunes.
Rain on my face.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. Every Monday night I bring you 2 hours of all things related to UFOs, politics, ways to preserve our freedom, and how to live the best life we can live. Sometimes it's just myself, sometimes I have a guest, but either way, it's a wild ride every week. Don't miss the Richard Dolan Show, Monday nights, 9 to 11 Eastern on KGRA Radio.
Need traffic to your website or blog? CallTheFirm.com can quickly and easily expose your site on the first page of major search engines from just $39.95 a week. Choose from Google, Yahoo, or Bing search networks. Your site or blog can be found on the keywords that matter, and you pay as little as $39.95 per week, 4-week minimum order. Open a browser now and visit CallTheFirm.com for all the details. Get the online exposure your site needs by visiting CallTheFirm.com. That's CallTheFirm.com.
The TalkStream Live app for iPhone, iPad, and Android is the fastest and easiest way to access live talk radio anytime, anywhere. Download the free TalkStream Live app right now and see for yourself. You'll enjoy instant access to the best in live talk radio. Find your favorite shows and discover some new ones. The TalkStream Live app is available in the App Store, the Google Play Store, or visit TalkStreamLive.com. That's TalkStreamLive.com.
Okay. So just type the job website address here. That's it. Then you enter what job you're looking for there.
Electrician. This is Peter. Recently he got help going on the internet for the first time to look for a new job.
Okay. Then you just hit search and...
In the past, Peter's gotten work through people he knew, but he heard there were more jobs online.
There we go.
These are all for me?
Uh-huh.
Really? He had no idea just how many. I can't believe it. This one looks good. Peter's thinking the internet might be for him after all.
And this is just one website.
Wow. Why didn't I do this sooner? See what the internet can help you do at everyoneon.org or call 1-855-387-9166 to find a free training class near you. Brought to you by Connect to Compete and the Ad Council.
Powered by Live365.com.
Let's go.
Via the World Wide Web. This is the station that talks the net. Paranormal Talk Radio. KGRA. The Planet.
And we're back here with Tony Topping, and you're listening to Starborn Support Radio on KGRA. And I just want to take a second to welcome everyone out there who's listening. I understand last week we had some people from Brazil and Sweden and all over the world. Guys, make yourself at home and listen to the show. I'm going to turn it over to Julia right now, who's got some very pertinent questions to ask Tony. Julia, why don't you take it away?
My head's spinning with all the information that we've been hearing, and it really resonates with me, Tony, because there is a spiritual aspect to this that I'm very connected. I feel very connected to the Nordics, and we go to sky watches, and we do feel we're being risen to another vibration, and when we all become awake and aware, that's when we're going to have actual contact and live the way we were meant to live and thrive. So that really resonates with me, what you were talking about before. And I do have a question. I was on your website, and boy, TonyTopping.com, it's amazing. And this really touched me. There was a story, and it's about a woman who has been abducted her whole life. Although the experience was initially scary, she began to feel honored by them choosing her. She now has psychic ability and many other gifts because of it. She had stated that the negativity and the fear derived from abductions or contact is coming from the government. She feels that the ETs are benign and loving beings here to change our DNA to better the race. Did you find in all your investigations and workings that the government is causing the negativity and fear for some reason? And why do you think they are doing this? And what is your opinion of all this?
Well, that is a highly dangerous realm that we've wandered into. Because it goes beyond the government. It just goes. For example, I think a good yardstick, Julie, on this one is we've had World War I and World War II. That is not a coincidence. That's a modus operandi of something. That's something that is, well, and we've had wars through the centuries, but World War I and World War II in particular is not a coincidence. It's a modus operandi of something, and that's where we start getting into what you're talking about. This something that's out there. What is this something that is doing all it? And of course, what this something is of course, I do believe, not human. And I think that the governments of our world, including the United States government, especially the United States, because it's odd, isn't it, in terms of spiritual awakening, whatever that something might be, would fear the sleeping colossus that is America. Because if America, and this sounds so insane because at the moment they're bombing the shit out of Iraq and Syria and they're doing all kinds of crazy things. The country as a nation in general appears to have gone off the rails. It doesn't appear to have any direction as to where it's going, and yet that something would actually fear America and other nations, but America in particular, as a sleeping colossus. If this country, your country, awakens at a certain level, one hell of a nation and people it will be. And this something is out there, and it is not. It's brutal, Julia. It's not just something where we are transcending and we're all going to live happily ever after. This something is brutal in its hold upon mankind. It's very ancient. It's there. It's present. And your government, the American government especially, were aware of it in the 1950s. And I do believe there was a very interesting thing written by Linda Moulton Howe in her book High Strangeness, Volume 1, that discussed an approach that was made to her by people from the Defense Intelligence Agency who were discussing with her the fact that they had a situation occurring with something called non-human entities, or NHE, and they had this specific situation occurring where they were causing causing strange events and goings on that they couldn't quite get their heads around, but they were looking at it, and this is what appears to be happening. And the situation being is that the other researcher, Nick Redfern, he wrote a book called Final Events about an agency called the Collins Elite. So you've heard of Majestic 12, well, there was another agency called the Collins Elite who reached a conclusion that there was something going on with something that was demonic, that was non-human entity that was present, and obviously Linda Moulton Howe and Nick Redfern were unaware that both of them had written about the same issue from two different quarters. So what you have is this kind of this Matrix style kind of, you see, if you're going to control something, you're not going to go down the streets with laser beams. If you're an invading alien force, you're not going to do that. You're going to camp yourself in the subconscious. You're going to camp yourself in the collective, and that's what it's about. It's a space. It's a continuum. It is actually, even us speaking now are creating paradox to the future. Even us speaking on this radio show now creates a paradox of ascension, and it's very tricky to get your head around. But you're talking a very slow time scale. I don't think it happens overnight. You're probably talking about 70 to 80 years from now, I would suggest, where we've kind of like we begin to, as humans and as governments and so on, as a collective species, we begin to realise that what we're doing to each other and so on and so, something is wrong, terribly wrong, and this is the situation.
Do you think it's the Illuminati, or they're are just demonic, like a satanic angel?
It's something. We'll just say it's something, because it's dangerous for me. It's very dangerous for me to talk about this, frankly, and I don't say that lightly. We're getting into the dangerous mechanics and nitty gritty of it, and it's dangerous for me to just to talk about. Really, it really is. They don't like awakened human beings. They just don't like human beings that are awakened, because it causes this something to get very jumpy indeed. They don't like this something, does not like perception put on it. It doesn't like, it's a quantum physics effect, isn't it, where the observer affects reality. They don't want to be observed. They've worked in the shadows for centuries. They've worked, they have manipulated, they have done all kinds of things, and they don't want human perception on them. They don't want it.
Tony, don't you think that by now, don't you think that they know that we'd eventually wake up?
Yes, I think they do, and I think they do. But I think that they're going to do a childish, toddler-like strop on the planet first. I think they're going to trash the pad like spoilt school children who have been rumbled with the toys, with the sweet jar. That's how I see it. And there is, of course, the supernatural as well. Also even beyond them and beyond the alien. You see, with these people in the UFOs, they are also aware of supernatural forces. They are aware of them, and the fact that the supernatural beyond their this is the amazing thing. These people in the UFOs, incidents of the supernatural happen beyond their comprehension. Despite their technology, the universe appears to be a dark, or the multiverse even appears to be a dark and mysterious place, even with their technology. That's the incredible thing about it, I feel.
So it sounds like there's good aliens and bad aliens.
Yeah.
Well, we're not calling them aliens, but like beings that are having a war with each other, and they're doing it with us. We're like the pawn in the middle.
For some reason, we carry a signature. I've reason to suspect we as human beings have a unique signature that is linked to a higher intelligence that is possibly beyond their comprehension. Hence, certain individuals being followed a lot by UFOs, like I was. And it's taken me 14 years to work out that perhaps, and it's just a perhaps, that some kind of supernatural incident has happened to me that has been beyond my own awareness, where whatever this supernatural force is has spoken to me in some way, and they have picked up on that. Hence the heavy UFO activity that I'm getting, because they've picked up on it. It's beyond their comprehension. Therefore, I am a scientific lab rat. I am somebody who's being watched because of this something that's happened beyond their comprehension. And that is interesting when you're dealing with a civilization that might be 2 centuries to 3 centuries ahead of us in technology, and a human being has something happen to them that is beyond their comprehension. That's a guess. It's an educated guess as well, because I live one hell of a life. I live a very, I'm a very lonely guy. I'm almost a bachelor. There's all kind, I've got good friends, and all that kind of thing, but on the whole, I lead a lonely life. And yet I've got all this crazy stuff going on around me with the UFOs at the same time. And it's tricky to deal with, you know, it really is. And the issue of the covert interests who are aware, these covert interests who are human and are aware, they're fully aware, in fact, I think more so than I am, of what's been going on.
So the other question I had was, what are you doing to keep the government from harassing you, and what information can be helpful to others that are experiencing this harassment? What can you do?
Well, this is it, because there is no, unfortunately, when it comes to government mind control harassment, I'm afraid there is not a lot you can do with it. I'm one of the lucky ones who have had the sheer balmy, we have this term in the UK, I don't know if it's the balmy army, where I've got this balmy army of objects coming over my house that have told them to back off. The thing is with them is that there's a limits to what they know, there's limits to what they can do. The only thing that's happened to me is that I have to pray every day. The power of prayer is very important. I'm very lucky. I mean, I've got some guys who are Christians in a town in Southport, a group of them who pray for me on a daily basis because of what I have been exposed to, because the exposure to that something can contaminate the soul. The soul is a vessel. We have a soul. It's a vessel. And so, you know, it's not ascension, which is what it's all about, Julia. This is really what it's all about. It's about ourselves as a race and as a species ascending, becoming aware, and that is what it's all about. An exposure to that something that's preventing that is a dangerous thing to be exposed to, a real dangerous thing. And so, you know, there's really no quick answer other than the fact that, you know, my metaphor is show me what is hidden. That's my latest metaphor. Show me what is hidden. Show me people for who they really are. But I always find that a prayer to the cosmos every day. And in fact, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Krishna consciousness, where it's every minute of every day you are aligned with the Supreme, you're praying continually all the time. That is the only way I've found that I have managed to get through it. I have no defense against the mind control, I'm afraid. There's no defense against that. In fact, it may have shortened my life expectancy, and I'm sorry to have to, but, you know, the best thing you can do, I think the finest example is Master Yoda and his cooking pot in Star Wars, where he's got all that power. You know, he can lift the X-Wing fighter, can't he, with Luke Skywalker. Does it with the power of his mind, but yet he's stirring a cooking pot. He's in a little hut somewhere, just minding his own business. Because the thing is that I think daily living and avoiding this subject, and not avoiding it, but getting sucked into it like I was to the point of obsession is dangerous. And I think when you start to obsess about it, that's the point when you need to back it off, I think, because it's cost me dearly, really come with a heavy price tag.
Tony, I think Laura has some chat room questions.
Yeah, I want to backtrack just a little bit. The question earlier about Nordics, the listener really would like to know what interactions you've had during the abduction, if you remember, if you have recall of the abductions, and what their agenda might be or their motive for contact with you.
This is correct. That they're good questions, and there's some that I can't answer because I don't know, and I'm not going to go down the line. I don't think it's fair, and I never have done. As people will tell you who know me, my story has not altered for the past 15 years. It's still the same. So if I don't know something, I'm not going to say. All I can say is that they look like us, but are not quite like us. They've indicated that the liaison with them shall continue. It's a normalization process. Some of the foods that we have on Earth would poison them. Coca-Cola, for example, would poison them. They can't eat our foods. They cannot. They have leisure facilities, from what I understand. The educated guess as to why they have turned up like they have is for breeding purposes, and also because of a supernatural event that may have happened to me that I'm not aware of that they are. Because the supernatural is something that they are aware of, and as I say, it's so mysterious. Mysteries can even elude them despite their technology. So that appears to be the thing. They tell me that she in particular, and this happened a few years back, it indicated she was from Andromeda. The fact of the matter is that the galaxy is populated. And we, for some reason, our governments have chosen to keep it quiet. But the thing with it all, I hark back to the words of Colonel Philip Corso when he says that it's foreign. It's a foreign technology. It's a foreign people. There are foreign individuals. You'd never go up to a dog and pat it on the head if you didn't know it, because it's a stranger, and it's the same with them. The rule has to apply or you'll go insane. Because what is shocking is, for example, in about 97, I had an incident with one of them who was looking back at a mirror. She was in my old house. I was asleep at the time, and she looked at me, and I nearly died of bloody fright looking at her, because it was like something I'd never seen before. And she was not of this earth, and she looked like us but didn't. And she was glowing, radiant health. Skin complexion was spectacular, and glowing green eyes. It's the eyes that I can't get over. The actual eyes, the energy in the eyes is quite staggering. That always staggers me. What the eyes of them, what they look like, is just staggering me. And the unusual spiked hairstyle as well. She had this unusual spiked hairstyle. There was no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that she was from down the road. Look, put it, their technology is that simple. You're communicating as if they're the next door neighbour down the road, but they're in the next galaxy. But they were communicating with somebody else, and I appear to be a byproduct of that communication as well. I hope that helps. I'm trying to piece it together myself.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you actually don't have recall of what actually occurs?
No, I don't. No. For example, I'll go to sleep today, and I'll once again be battered across the space-time continuum, as I call it. There'll be all sorts happening. I will not have a recall of what has happened with them. The fact of the matter is, there's a distinct possibility that I may have a son. I may have given birth to a child, and that might be the next phase. That I do have a child to one of them is a possibility that has happened. They've hinted on that. It is present in my journals. That has occurred, that they do have, and that is bizarre, because these people who were stalking me were after a child from me. That is hard to comprehend, but when they were stalking me as they were in the 1990s and doing what they were doing, they were after a child from me. These people who spoke English, they were human beings. They weren't certainly not aliens, the people who were following me. It was government covert group. It was a mind control thing. They were after a child from me. I've even got an entry in one of my books here where they've actually done the old Frey effect voice to skull thing, indicating that they wanted a super psychic child from me, more or less saying, come on, let's be having this kid, get a move on with it. That was in 2003. That's the kind of intimidation I was up against with mind control at the time. So these people who stalk me know what they know at some level, which I find frightening. That somebody somebody like you, Laura, or me, or a human being, knows knows slightly beyond what I know about all this, and it's been eluded from me for 14 years, and that is very, very frustrating. Really is.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you next, was about your thoughts on the hybridization program, and whether or not you thought you had any children, because there's a couple of researchers over here in the States who not only say they have a child but children, and they've been able to actually see them or take pictures of them. Has that ever been the case for you? Have you ever been able to see this child or get to know him in any way?
I have a feeling that in an innocuous entry in my journal on July the 4th, I think it's 2007 or thereabouts, there is this innocent little entry that I've written, because what's happening is what we're getting is this apparent situation where interaction occurs and then I get whacked by them. Interaction occurs and then mind control kicks in a day later, or nearly 4 to 7 to 12 hours later they'll attempt to block it, but they're late. They're running late because it's already happened. And there's a little innocuous kind of little entry in one of my journals that indicates that there's a possibility that that the child came to actually visit me, but I didn't know at the time because I was that involved in the drama. They were really whacking me hard, and I didn't notice. It wasn't until several years down the line when I read it all that I realised that there's a distinct possibility that the little fella is out there and he came to see me. But you see, what is worrying about that, Michael, is they don't openly declare their hand. The Nordic group, for example, does not openly declare what it's doing with me. Neither does any other party, for that matter. They don't openly declare what's happening, and that I find sinister. And Colonel Corso was quite right when he said, Philip Corso, when he said that it's foreign technology, foreign government. Foreign, the word foreign doesn't necessarily mean foreign country as like we would think. They perceived it as foreign as in alien, foreign as in strange. And that's what's happening to me, that there's this constant elusiveness and dishonesty around what's happening that bugs me a great deal. They're not giving me the full picture. Had I been given the full picture, I would have been able to tell you it, but I'm not getting the full picture. I've only got a quarter of it, I think. Just under half of it so far of what's happening, which is bonkers, I think. But that's, that's the situation that has occurred and is ongoing. It's like a drip, drip, drip feed, and I can't seem to get a handle. In fact, I'll probably go to my grave not knowing the full truth, and I think that's very, very sad. I might not, but I probably will, and I think that's very sad.
That is sad. That really is sad that you think that way. I don't know. It sounds like you seem to be seeing this stuff, but it's like almost like you've lost your glasses and you can't see clearly. You know something's
Correct,
going
Michael,
on.
You got it.
Right, but everything's fuzzy and you can only make out some things.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now you had recently. I don't know whether it was recent or not, but there was an article you wrote about your secret war with classified mind control operation.
Yes.
I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about that on the flip side coming up. We're going to have a break in a few seconds, and I want to make sure that Julia got all of her questions in. Are you okay, Julia?
When doing the documentary with Dan Schreiber, is that his name, the comedian?
That's right, yeah.
Schreiber. Did you come to the same conclusion that the government is guiding the public's perception of ETs as malevolent? Did you do the documentary yet with Dan?
Yes, it's done. It's not been broadcast yet, but it's done, yes.
Okay, so all the different people that you've interviewed,
yes.
Do you get the perception that the ETs or the other people from other worlds, that they are not malevolent and it is the government or certain sections of the government that are trying to make you think that they are, possibly because they want to have that Star Wars, they want like wars so that, like this fake alien war,
Okay, yeah, I get that. The thing with it is that these visiting people, we shall call them, and there's an entry in some of my journals about them when they've been speaking to me during my experiences, where they indicate, one of them indicates, do they want our technology so they can make nuclear missiles fly better? I see that the natives, they come out with parochial terms as well in their language. For example, I see the natives are chucking rocks at each other to describe nuclear weapons. They utterly detest anything nuclear. They find it abhorrent. Nuclear technology they are not fans of. And it appears that, yes, I think that is the problem. It's an element within the governments that we see around us that is causing this problem of disinformation. That in fact, Julia, here in Britain, for example, I could now, if this Channel 4 program is broadcast or if I say anything in public, there's a possibility that under new terrorism laws I could be carted off and placed in a lunatic asylum permanently. And then I would be at the mercy of my harassers then. And that is a constant threat of the knock at the door in Britain. In Britain, of all places, which is meant to be one of the most liberal countries, I could get a knock at the door and be carted off.
Hey guys, I hate to break in, but it's time for a break again. And on the other side of the break, I think Laura has a couple of questions she wants to ask. So we'll go into break now. You're listening to Starborn Support Radio.
The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing!
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Ozark Mountain Publishing and Spiritual Journeys Travel proudly present an unforgettable voyage of a lifetime on board the magnificent Celebrity Cruise Ship Constellation for the Holy Land Cruise 2014. Meet the pioneering guest speakers whose groundbreaking work in the field resulted in worldwide success. Featuring world-renowned authority in the field of hypnotherapy, Dolores Cannon, New York Times best-selling author Robert Bivall, world-renowned UFO researcher Haktan Okdogan, plus Ozark's authors Guy Needler, Maria Wheatley, and Julia Cannon. On October 25th, 2014, set sail from beautiful Istanbul, Turkey to enhance your spiritual awareness and witness the ancient history of the land as we explore Ephesus, Israel, Malta, and Rome. With 8 land excursions, workshops, and lectures with an extra night stay at the luxury Crown Plaza Hotel in Rome. Join us on this unforgettable voyage through the timeless ocean of present, past, and future. For more information, visit our website at www.sjtturkey.com. That's www.sjtturkey.com. Or call our U.S. office toll-free at 1-800-935-0045. International customers can dial 001-479-738-2348. October the 25th through November the 5th. It's the Holy Land Cruise 2014.
Hey, this is Mac Maloney inviting you to the new 2-hour-long version of Mac Maloney's Military X-Files show here on KGRAradio.com. We're on every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on the Eastern Seaboard, talking about UFOs, the military, and whatever else comes up. We have a lot of interesting guests in the next couple months, so join us every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. here on KGRAradio.com. Me and Racy Boy on Mac Maloney's Military X-Files show.
You read about UFOs, strange creatures, and ghosts. You watch videos about them. Do you know how to investigate them? Chase Kletsky does. For 20 years, she's been Indiana Jones and Laura Croft rolled into one. The real hunter of Bigfoot, ghosts, and UFOs. She goes everywhere, from remote woods to ghost-infested buildings to the highlands of South America, hunting down strange things in our world. Now she's written a book to show you how it's done. Co-authored with UFO researcher Richard Dolan, Chase lays it out. How to prepare, what to bring, interviewing witnesses, doing a stakeout, handling evidence, and documenting it the right way. Get Admissible, the field manual for investigating UFOs, paranormal activity, and strange creatures. Learn more at richarddolanpress.com.
Also available on Kindle.
for a little ride.
Now you can share the topics that drive the discussions of your favorite talk shows with TalkStream Live's topic-driven talk radio.
We gotta talk. Let's take a drive.
List and promote real-time talk radio topics, or post the topics that you want to hear. Hot topics are tweeted and retweeted, and include simple click-to-listen audio links. The future of talk radio is topic-driven talk radio.
Now that's what I call real drive.
Available now at TalkStreamLive.com.
UFO Paranormal Talk Radio. This is KGRA Radio.com.
And welcome back, everyone, to Starborn Support Radio here on KGRA, Alternative Talk. I want to say hello again to everyone out there in the world who's listening. We're glad to have you here. Sit back and relax while we wrap up the last quarter of the show here. I wanted to turn it over to Laura Weiser, who has some questions, Tony, so I'm going to let her go with that.
My question was related to an interview that you had before. I'd done some research, and you mentioned the occult. You made a statement that the U.S. intelligence, sometime in the 1950s, had become aware of a non-human intelligence that entered this collective subconscious through occult means. I'm just wondering what you meant by that.
Yeah, some content. It was, as I was saying to Julia earlier, we were talking about what they were aware of. World War I and World War II was not just a random coincidence, it was the product of something. So they were aware of what this something was and were aware that it was not human. That's the thing about it. So it's as I said, it's like if you've got an invading alien army, they're not going to go down the street with laser beams firing. It doesn't happen like that. They're just not going to do that. They're going to do it in another nefarious way. And so throughout history, we see secret societies, etc., and a hierarchical structure behind the scenes at work, and it's very nefarious. And that's probably what they stumbled across in the 1950s. They certainly were aware of it, and I think the Russian government's probably aware of it as well. But with their remote viewing espionage, psychic espionage programs, it's the deep black element of the remote viewing stuff that isn't public, I would suggest as well, because with the Russian stuff, it's called New Cosmology, and the Russians had a full understanding and comprehension of the world around us and where mankind fitted in, and their kind of psychic espionage programs were very accurate, as was the US ones. But that element that we're talking about, I think, is probably the black element of remote viewing, the bit that isn't public, the bit that they would have stumbled across. Definitely they would have stumbled across that during their remote viewing experiments, because the lens of perception, the observer affecting reality, would have observed it. They would have seen it. Without doubt, they would have seen it. Definitely so.
So you feel, though, that just by attempting to do or engage in remote viewing, that we opened up the doorway somehow? Allowed them to enter?
Basically, yeah. What it was to do with was the fact, actually, a good question, Laura, that's actually a good question. What it was to do with was the fact that the Collins elite, I'm keeping an open mind. It's not gospel. What I say is I'm a guy who's trying to comprehend what's happened to him. And these are avenues of research that I've looked at. That basically they discovered in the 1950s, that the Collins elite, that people, that what happened was it was the reason why they were formed was because there was an air war going on called the UFO Air War of 1950. They were absolutely baffled as to why UFOs were coming into US airspace and they were having to shoot them out the sky. They were sending up Starfire jets and firing 12 rockets at them at a time and hoping for the best. There's actually documented incidents of these aliens or UFOs coming over radio communication systems on UHF. There's all kinds of strange accounts from Korean air races going up and having a go at them. And they reached this incredible conclusion, did the Collins elite, that a cult ritual was responsible for opening the doorway and letting them in. This was their this was a conclusion that they had reached, and it's one of many conclusions. It's not just the be-all and end-all of what is going on in terms of humanity and UFOs and aliens. It was one of many jigsaws, and an accurate one it is as well. That is what they had discovered, that it was a cult ritual, they suggested, that had actually, and the bigger it was, the worse it got. So the bigger the ritual, the bigger the portal, the bigger the incoming negativity.
What do you mean? Could you define more clearly what you mean by the occult rituals? I mean, other than remote viewing. Well, okay. Let me think. How can I put this into a occult ritual? For example, the people. We're going into a dangerous area, but for example, the people stood around at Bohemian Grove, so popularised, nothing going on there, citizen, nothing to see. None of the people involved there stood there, and I don't judge, by the way, because you have to respect fire. It's a form of life. You have to respect fire. You know, this is it's very serious stuff. You've got to respect fire. Ascension is a very serious matter. It's not just, it's nitty gritty we're talking about here. It's about people getting injured in the process of humanity reaching that level. But the people stood there will have no idea at these ceremonies what the hell they're doing. No, although they think they do, but they'll have no idea of the what is really actually happening around them at another level. They absolutely have no idea of that. So it's this alluring, the unknown allures. It allured me into obsession for nearly, gracious me, 7 years of having a very lonely life, going out with a camcorder, filming UFOs and being attacked by one. I mean, I've been attacked twice on 2 occasions now by a dot of light UFO. Which was all very strange, but you've no idea, you see, as I said earlier, it is to do with the supernatural. In some cases, you can be powerful enough to trigger a gateway of some description, and it's beyond your comprehension why you've done that. So, a lot of it is to do with the occult. It's to do with the naivety of what the occult really is. In some cases, it's more advanced than what we think, but it has this allure to it, doesn't it? It's the allure of the unknown. With the allure of it, and that's why humanity has probably gone down the Swanee River, because it's the allure of the unknown, the allure of power, and that power, as we see today, is leading to the chaos that is present upon our planet, from Syria to the Ukraine.
Yeah, I see that. I see that kind of clearly. You know, you were talking about the fire and the Bohemian Grove ceremonies. Yeah, you know, the people standing around think they, as you said, they think they know what's going on. But
yes, that's right.
Actually, that's kind of for this third party. That's kind of on purpose so that they can get their agenda completed.
You're not wrong. And another thing, Michael, which just important point just to get over, may I just say, is there's Russia Today, the television, Russia Today, the TV channel. There was this photo that I found quite disturbing, and it was a photo of now I understand that under laws at the moment in your country, if you criticise US foreign policy in any way, shape or form, you could be labelled as a terrorist, as I understand it. And this is very serious, just so serious where all this is going. But there was this picture of the Russian foreign minister at the United Nations looking absolutely aghast. And I mean aghast. In fact, he had the look of a man who thought, what the hell was going on? And I think it was the US ambassador to the United Nations leaning over him and talking to him, the photo shows. And she's leaning over him in such a way to make him have this aghast, what the hell's going on look on his face, because there's a possibility that she is under the control of something else. And that photo was very telling. It struck a chord with me, that the way she leaned over him, the way she was talking to you couldn't hear what she was saying because it was a photo, but it showed a marker of something not right. And the look on the man's face, this foreign minister's face, was one of, there's something not right with what's going on here kind of look. And Russia as a country, with its paranormal espionage programs, etc., was fully aware of what I'm talking about, as is the US government. They're fully aware of it. They are aware. So why are they trying to propel each other towards conflict is the question, when they are aware of what I'm talking about.
Right.
is puzzling.
Yeah, it really is puzzling. But then again, like you said, there's that third-party agenda.
There is. You're not wrong.
Like I said in my opening statement, it's more or less all of these people. I wish they could see how foolish they are. They're minions to this third party, and just incredible stuff. How then? I guess I need to ask, how then can we stay involved in this area and yet try and block that darkness or that evil part from actually coming upon us? Or is that something you haven't found out yet?
It's something I've not found out yet, and I think, at the end of the day, it would be dishonesty and disservice to your listeners to say something that I pretend to know but don't know, because I haven't found the answer. We're finding the answers, and there are other people out there who are also finding the answers. What I would say also in terms of the mind control torture that has happened to me, there are people out there in the kind of this spy world, this espionage world, who know that they've done what they've done, but they're keeping mute. They're keeping mute about it. They know that mind control was used on me, very heavily so, for a number of years. But it's the mute silence regarding it all, which is very sinister. The sinister silence that we are not alone. It disturbs me a great deal, and the fact of where we're heading down as a human race is something that is deeply, I would say, puzzling to me, because there's also, within the UFO situation, there is a time travel element involved, which is like the elephant in the room, where you have an element of kind of like human beings that are part of the UFO jigsaw puzzle, human beings who are actually us, aliens who are actually us from the future.
Yeah, that's what we didn't get into. Yeah, that's what we didn't get into, that time travel part. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the kind of like, I think at a rudimentary level, somebody somewhere had harnessed the fact that the subconscious and elements of the subconscious at a certain level is not tied to the boundaries of time linearly in any way, shape or form, which means that subconsciously utilizing the physics that involves the speed of thought, etc., you can actually time travel. And the other situation, of course, what is unique by that irony is the fact that I've created paradox in that at some point in the proceedings now, somebody will, in the years ahead, take that remark and utilize it, who's not even born yet. That's a paradox. That's how paradoxical it all is. And there is an element, a time travel element involved with UFO interactions, whereby, these people who flew over my house, these blonde people, they describe it, they kind of like, it's as if they've split the earth into zones, and they come out with this terminology, which I have never read in any UFO book, but they've got these categories of Earth human, which is currently us now, and something called future Earth human, which is us further down the timeline, because their technology utilizes time travel in such a way that when they're dealing with you, what is even more not frightening, disturbing, puzzling, a lot to handle is the word I'm looking for. The fact of the matter is that the person you're seeing and liaising with has seen your future because of the technology that they use. They can make predictions about events that will happen in your life and will come to fruition because they're on a time. They can track time. Their technology tracks through time backwards and forwards. So when people are abducted, for example, in the real sense of the word, especially with dimensional groups of people, the fact of the matter is it appears that a transcendence occurs whereby, this is from my experiences and I could be wrong, whereby you cross over into the afterlife. It's kind of like into the afterlife, into their realm of another dimension, and the fact of the matter is that their civilization, or them as a people, are further down the timeline than we are, as it were. They're older than us, they've evolved more, their history, their timeline of events is longer than ours. In a rudimentary way, you've actually time travelled. And if you're then placed back from their reality into this reality, there's a bizarre feedback going on for some abductees, whereby the future, it appears, is looping back to them because they've rudimentary, at some level, time travelled. They've crossed a zone or a boundary of some description that doesn't know time in the linear fashion. It's as if it's happening all the time. And then they're placed back into this reality, which is the 28th of the 9th, 2014 at 4:47, and I've probably gone into a realm that's further down the line, with these people in the UFOs, further down the timeline, and then put back again. And that creates, for some abductees and experiences, that creates this bizarre kind of odd feedback scenario, where, I don't know, where you can be 2 seconds ahead of what somebody's going to say occasionally. Odd things will happen, like a parallel universe situation might occur, a time slip might occur, where a picture might be where it shouldn't be, and then it's all right. Or you're reading the newspaper and suddenly the letters change and you're reading something else, and then it's back to normal again. And odd little things of time slippage that can occur with experiences.
Like deja vu and all that.
It's like deja vu. Yeah, it is. And that is kind of like not written about in any UFO book, but that has happened. That has happened to a number of experiences, definitely. So
now now are they on the same timeline as us? Because I know there's different timelines. They're not on the same timeline as us. I would suggest they're not on the same timeline as us, but are capable of interaction with us on further timelines down the line. So if you're looking at the Wingmakers site, actually, although considered a hoax, there's a site called the Wingmakers, right.
And in that are some grains of truth about this scenario that I'm talking about. That time is happening all the time, that it's the events it's not happening in a linear way, and what I think is the thing that I've asked them during the course of my experiences, which are ongoing, is not to tell me my future. I don't want to know how it ends. I don't want to know how it ends for me. I really don't. There are some predictions that have been made in my journals. They predicted the 2010, there was going to be trouble with the economy in 2010, which they predicted. There is some other stuff that they've come out with to do with the United Kingdom in particular, to do with the fact that, for example, civil disturbances on the streets of Britain again, and so on. So there's a number of predictions they've made in these journals for the year 2030, which is not arrived yet, which are, for Britain anyway, for the United Kingdom, because there appears to be an interest in Britain with these groups that are flying over in the UFOs. They appear very interested in the UK, what it's doing, where it is in the world, and that's baffling, because the UK is the most secretive and possibly also darkly corrupt as well country in the world. It's one of the most, when it comes to covering things up, the British are very good at that, very good at having inquiries where they know the outcome of, and all that kind of thing. But for some reason, I know in the ancient occult texts they say that Britain is the heart of the world. They say that Glastonbury Tor, the ley lines, it's the major interaction points. Britain is a major interaction point for all that. But once again, Michael, I've not got an answer for that. I've just not got the answers that I need at the moment.
Yeah, and I guess I'm like everybody else trying to get them. It's just so fascinating. Well, I guess maybe Britain, because of them being, I guess, the great power that they were for so many centuries. I mean, the sun never sets on the British Empire. That might be one of the reasons why they have an interest in Britain, and I know they have an interest in us.
Yes, they do. Oh, they have an interest in America. Oh my God, do they? Yeah, they certainly do. And not only do they have an interest, but I hazard a guess that they're speaking to an element of the United States government. They're actually speaking to them, and there's protocols involved in all this. They tell me at some point in it, I've had so much interaction with them, and some of it I can't even remember, but basically they were telling me that the strict protocols involved in any communication with Earth human or the Earth authority. There's very strict guidelines as to what they can say, what they can't say. That's mirrored, by this guy in Russia, Alexei Savin, who was talking again about the fact that they, when his unit was communicating with these off-world civilizations, the only information they would give was medical related. They would not give any military information at all. Nothing military would be given and no indication of how their military works. And they do have military. Definitely. The military elements to them. But no information at all was given on that. And personally, I wouldn't want to know, Michael. I don't want to know. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. I hear you.
And you do.
What's in the future for you?
What in the future? I want to have a career in television. Television is going to be where I'm going to head for. So, I think after I'm writing a book. I'm not going to tell you what the title is, but my God, when it comes out, it'll probably go down a storm. And the book will have information to do with all my journal entries in, which is incredibly complex. These journals that I've written, they have to be they're not at the moment in their raw form, and I'll publish them in their raw form as well. But to publish them in their raw form currently would be, people wouldn't understand them. Even I having a job on them, I've got to configure it in such a way so that it is understandable. All my experiences are understandable. So we're getting on with the book, and we've got ourselves a little publishing contract, and I'll be working on that. I'm hopefully going to get a second major documentary about my experiences under my belt with a broadcaster at some point in the months ahead. I think that's definitely going to happen.
If people want to check your site out, it's tonytopping.com or...
It's tonytopping.co.uk.
.co.uk.
Yeah, and it has all kinds of interesting stuff on it, and all my interviews as well on YouTube, which tells you about my experiences and how it all led up to all this, and the torture element, the unethical behaviour of certain individuals within the intelligence state there, within the secrecy state. It goes quite beyond Edward Snowden. When Edward Snowden says they have the capability to tap your email, well, they have the capability to tap your mind and neurally monitor you, and that is not a good thing. Not a good thing at all.
Well, Tony, God bless you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Julia. I hope we've gone down well with the listeners and delivered what they wanted to hear. Give some insights that people don't know about.
It was fantastic. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Cheers. Good night.
Good night. Okay, Laura, take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about what's happening next. Or not a few minutes, maybe a minute, and tell us what's going to happen next week.
We're going to be interviewing James Horak. He's going to be talking a little bit about the ABEs and CMVs, so it should be really interesting.
That should really be interesting. And Laura, you're going to be the host, yes?
Yep, I'll be the host next weekend.
Very good, very good.
Cool.
Let's say good night, I guess, then, to everybody. You've been listening to Starborn Support Radio and KGRA, folks. We'll see you next week.